All right, good morning. YieldMax Declaration Day. Um, so I updated a few things here, and I'm going to start tracking some additional details. Um, so let's jump in. So Group A is what is declaring. So the declaration date, as I mentioned in one of my other videos, it rolls into next week. Most of the funds, the Roundhill and Defiance, did their weeklies, right? Only the YMAX and YMAG technically are the weeklies. But they pushed theirs into declaring a day early so that Wednesday could be the ex-dividend and they could get paid on Friday. There's always a 2-day, right? You have a declaration date, then the next business day is the ex-dividend date. So you have to buy on the declaration date. So in YieldMax, you have to buy today on 27 on Wednesday. The ex-dividend then, since Thanksgiving is a holiday, is Friday. Then you don't get paid until Monday, the 2nd of December. And actually, is that, yeah, 2nd. Okay. So I have those up here, right? Declaration day, ex-dividend, pay date. All right, so let's get to our monthlies. And what I did was I rolled up 6 months. Now, in some of my other sheets, I've been tracking TSLY. It goes way back into 2023, early 2023. But I just went and collected the new ones. And then for YMAG and YMAX, I collected the full months of July and August, and then all the weeklies through today. So, and I called it a 6-month total return. So you want to know the gain in the NAV. So I went back and I just used July 2, right? Because that would have allowed you pretty much to receive all the dividends that I'm showing. And then I simply added all those. Like for Tesla, it's the 10035.9661, which is not on here. And then the next 4 or 5 months, right? I have M6, which is September, October for N6, 06 is November, and then I got a December, right? So 4 months here on this sheet, and then 2 additional values. So I went through and did that for everybody, right? And then once I do that, all I needed to know was what was the NAV price of the fund on July 2nd. And then obviously I know what the closing price on November 26th. So it's not a full, it would have to be 12.2, but it's close enough. So I wanted to show that. I think you'll find it interesting. So some of these funds are heading the total wrong way. Some are doing better. And remember, 6-month isn't what your annual yield. Like when we do this, we're saying, hey, this thing paid $1.22. Well, what's the formula? If you multiply that times 12 and divide it by the current price, that's a 95% yield. And we all know my problem with TSLY, not with Tesla. I absolutely love Tesla. My problem with Tesla, yeah, it induces you, it intrigues you with a high yield dividend, but the fund is managed so poorly that it just doesn't give you much of a return. I mean, look at the 6 month. This is supposed to be picking up for all that horrible time. You got a 23% return. I guarantee you, if you just went out and bought the stock probably 6 months ago and owned it, you'd be ahead of the game, way ahead of the game, because TSLY doesn't keep up with Tesla. So that's the problem. That's why I say you're better off going and buying the 2X and, and switching to the 1X at times when it's running, because Tesla just, for whatever reason, and GUI is another one. That's why I compared the curve stuff. They just don't perform very well. Whereas Misty performs pretty well for an income fund. It's not as good as at the right times of going along like an MSTX or, 2 times Bitcoin. I get that income people always say, yeah, I understand the underlying will outperform. And I get why some people want the income, but some of these funds just don't do well in the YieldMax family. Some do. So that's why I'm trying to point out, I'm not hating on YieldMax. Don't take it that way. Because there's a place for income funds. It's just some of the funds do better. So with a 10.23 NAV loss over the last 6 months, you've got a yield of 33.33 with all that money. So you still have, and you could double that, right, over 12 months, because that's really fair if you're using this price, because only 6 months worth of return. That's why this yield is 33%. Well, if I collect, I've only collected $5.70. So if I get up and collect $11.40 and I collect it on, a 17 number that I started at, if that's truly what it does, then that's going to give me a fantastic yield. That's going to give me, 67% on the yield. But if my NAV is 20, it's still an okay, but if you don't just need the income every month, there are just better ways to play Tesla, which is what I do. All right, so on GUI or on OARK, OARK has really started to come around. I kept thinking it was going to go down like the one over in Group B, right, which is just about to implode, right, Murney. It's down in the $5. So if they haven't announced, they'll be announcing soon on Murney. That's a dead horse a rockin'. So this is nothing fabulous, but it's not anything to sneeze at. So ARK has stabilized. It didn't have a NAV loss for 6 months, so kudos. And the yield's 18.05, giving us an 18.41% return. So maybe it's dropped where it's going to drop and it's going to stabilize. So kudos on that. XOMO. Look at this with a negative because, or sorry, guys, that's GUI. I jumped around. And GUI is one of those funds that just doesn't do very well. And I showed you a curve where their goop just slaughters it, right? Somebody did point out, the volume did look anemic. Somebody in my comments pointed out, I don't know that I take it you can't get out, of it, but it was very low volume. I don't know what's happened to them because they really are a pretty stable fund. So XOMO, look at this. So guys, by the way, while I'm talking, don't say, oh, well, Bruce, you didn't tell me. Look in the yellow. That is your number, right? TSLY, OARK, GUI, XOMO, YBIT, CRSH, SNOY, TSMY, YMAX, and YMAG, right? Good payment for YMAX, 30 cents, right? And 20 cents here for YMAG. So both had, look at these yields. But when I ran the numbers for the 6 months, they didn't really stand out. But I'll talk about that in a minute. So if you want your numbers, look at yellow. Okay, I highlighted the yields that I thought were outstanding. Like I didn't on CRSH. It's had high yields. Look at this. CRSH has crashed. In 6 months, that thing is $8.21. So it's at a 45.99% drop. Right, that's not inception. Inception is over in another period. But just in measuring July 2 to right now, it's dropped 45.99. Now, it's had a decent yield. You could say it would have, based on that, almost a 60%, a 58, 60% yield. But does it matter if your loss is big over here? No, that you're not ahead of the game at all. So I think most people have figured out that with Tesla doing better, CRSH is not going to do great. So let's continue. So a total return of 8 for XOMO, 11 and 3, only a 13%. This is why I quit. At first, I loved YBIT. And then when I saw him writing on, the less than active management, I saw him writing on BITO, I just stuck with my BITO. right? And then I'll buy a 2x BTC and just blow up on it. Uh, so this is just not the way to go. I mean, look at this. You got all-time highs. These guys can't get out of the way. They still lost 16.8%. Now, it did pay decent, okay, 103% yield because it's only 1465. But only if you knew that it was going to stabilize and never go down. But this thing started at 1762, not at the 20 price, right? So I just, total return means a lot. I get out of YieldMax funds that I know aren't going to perform. So Snow, which Snowflakes, Palantir, I think is the best software stock in the world, period. It should just do fantastic. I'm talking 5x, 10x. Look back, I've been saying that. It's not in this month's distribution. I've been saying that. Do I want to own PLTY? No, because I don't need income that bad. I can make my own income buying the stock, selling puts at lower prices, either keeping the money or hoping to get the stock really cheap, which hasn't worked out very well. I've ended up just keeping the premium. So only a 2%er on TSMY, right? Because of the NAV loss. I mean, some of these are ugly over here. Even these funds, right? When you look, the price was 1968 and 2123 back on July 2nd. It's now 18 and 19. So it's dropped 7 and 8%. So the 6-month yield, these individual weekly ones, when they blow up and have a great one, it shows this great yield. But I literally went through and added the 2 months and then all of the weeklies, right? So I'm showing 355 and 313. Average over these prices is 18% yield and a 14. Now, granted, that's 6 months, guys. You want to double that. So that says at 12 months, you got a 36% yield, okay? But you still got to say, does this go to 14% or does it stabilize, right? So in general, I like YMAX a lot, okay? But if it's truly going to be a 36% yield or minus 14, it's 22. It's nothing to sneeze at. You'd get rich if you had a lot of money and you did it year after year after year, right? I don't think you will. I don't think you can maintain that level. And you may have some really bad years and you'll have some much better years. Um, so the total return is only saying about 22%, just double that number. And here it's even worse. So that's because they've been trending down. There were a period. So don't get fooled right here on this and say, oh, the world's in my oyster. It's just fabulous. Because the math here is correct and they're not just killing it. You got some of those 5 cents. When they only pay 5 cents in one of the weeks, that's not so good, guys. It happens. I know you'll say, oh, well, Group C is not a good one. It only has one for YMAG, whichever group. I think it's Group C. But so what? I mean, it happens. So you can't say, oh, 30 cents times 4 and occasionally 5 times a month you get paid. Wow, I'm killing it. No, this accounts for most of that. Okay, guys, that's what I got for you. Again, this is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. Let me know if you want to see another spin or something else on here. I was going to compute the recovery rate to get the dividend reduction. I just didn't do it because I wanted to do this 6-month rate so that I could annualize it. All right, guys, that's what I got for you again. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is for fun and entertainment. Have a great day ahead. Have a great, great Thanksgiving holiday and a shopping Friday if that's your choice, although most everything's online, I imagine. All right, guys, bye for now.